Hello and welcome back or welcome to the channel. I'm Loudguns and today we're off to hunt the Yormandi worms, clearing SC's newest boss fight and getting our hands on some uncomfortably juicy loot. With the latest update, these feature quite heavily in the Wicklow recipes, so whether you want something special from the weird little alien or you're looking for valuable items to sell on to other players, then we've got you covered. We'll be looking at the two main routes to the boss arena and talking about good loadouts and efficient methods for clearing it. So if this sounds good to you, grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, then let's get into it. The Yormandi worms are the new boss battle available in the ASD Onyx Facilities. Now a bit of a heads up, you can expect a full guide on the Onyx mission line in the near future, however the finale mission of the chain, Project Hyperion, is currently bugged. So I'm going in a bit of a reverse order here, and since they are totally distinct from the quest line and you don't need to have made any progress in it to get to the Yormandi, we're just going to jump ahead and put together this video. So first up, let's get geared up. I would go in with a set of heavy armour. There's always the chance that you fail a dodge and you tank a hit, and heavy is going to give you the best survival rating. Heavy armour does come with the drawback of slow speed though, so while it might be tempting, I would avoid having dual heavy weapons on you as well. The combination makes you run at a literal walk. So generally, I pack a lighter rifle or SMG for handling any bad guys on the way down, then an LMG for dealing with the worms themselves. We have experimented with rocket launchers and railguns, and originally these seemed to do an absolute truck ton of damage and were kind of a way to cheese your way through the worm fight. However, in more recent runs, while there's every possibility that we could have just got unlucky or need to get good, it does seem that this might have been stealth nerfed by CIG and they're not doing quite the amount of damage they used to. LMG choice is entirely up to you. The new pulverizer is probably top tier if you can find one in the contested zones or have one from the sitcom pack. You can always fall back on FS9s or F55s for more common examples. You can also loot the Fresnel Energy LMG at the Onyx Facilities, and while this struggles a bit with overheating, it does really good DPS if you can control it. Just make sure that you've got a tractor beam, med gun, med pens, and a fat stack of ammunition in your bag. While the fight is possible to do solo with lots of dodging, I would say it's designed around a small group. Personally, I find 2 to be a little bit of a challenge, 3 to be optimal, and 4 to be a casual, easy run. If you're ever looking for folks to join up with and run stuff like this, then please do pop into the FRCN Discord. Just follow the link down in the video description below. So with all of our prep done, we'll want to head down to an Onyx facility. These are dotted all across the Stanton system, but they're not marked on the star map until you take a mission. To get a waypoint, take any mission from the investigation section of your contract manager. It doesn't matter which one, as we're not actually going to do it. Even if you haven't done any of the mission chain, you'll still have a mission for the first one. This will then give you a marker for the facility that you can quantum jump to. And when you arrive, you'll be able to call for landing and land in one of the 2 large hangars. Do note that these are large, not XL, so you don't want to fly here in something like an Idris that won't fit. Upon arrival from your hangar, you can then take the elevator to the lobby. So upon arrival at the lobby, the first thing I tend to do is check round for the 4 loot boxes which are here. You'll find the first in a half-closed elevator. You find the next one behind the customer service desk, as I like to think of it. Now, the main reason we want to check every blue loot box we can is that we're looking for a yellow keycard. That'll let us take the bypass route, which we'll look at next. You might find little things like pico balls though, so always worth a look. Now on the rest of the route, I'm not going to bother checking every box that I see. I'm going to focus mostly on looking at the route and teaching you the way. But just keep an eye out for these boxes. Find another one here on this trolley, and then sometimes one spawns up here on the rubble. Always worth a look, but sometimes obviously with traffic that goes through, these things do get looted. So then we want to head down to the research wing. You've got 2 wings off this, research and engineering. So we just want to take the elevator here and then send it down to research. Now the lobby itself is an armistice zone, so you won't be able to pull your gun out at all. But once we enter the research wing proper, then we'll be able to get out our rifle. Now you can do a thing where you jump over the railings, but this is the not quite so express route, but it doesn't involve getting so many injuries. There will always be a few people who spawn in this initial lobby. You can take those out pretty easily. Then our next step is we want to head down through this elevator. Just drop down using that. Then we can crawl through the gap in the wall and drop down another floor. Now, like I say, you might want to check around all of these floors for the various loot boxes. This is just the most quick route through the facility. We'll take the door through, deal with a couple of bad guys, and then take the right-hand turn into this elevator shaft. Now if you just sprint and run straight off the edges here, you'll drop down 1 floor each time, and we won't go all the way to the bottom. And then just make sure you give yourself a little top up with your med gun. You shouldn't take any actual injuries by doing that, you'll just lose a bit of HP. Can't really avoid taking out these guys. For the most part, if you try and run this with a bit of speed and efficiency in mind, there's no need to stop and kill every bad guy. It does always pay though to repull your ammo whenever you've got a little lull. There is a bit where we can't avoid fighting coming up, so before we go into it, we want to make sure that we've just repulled. This will take us down to the main atrium. Now we're going to move across this room to the elevator, and at a certain point we are going to trigger a wave of bad guys. I thought initially that it was connected to when you hit the elevator button, but it's actually apparently just going to trigger at round about this point anyway. Just call that elevator and then prepare for the bad guys to come in. Now they are going to come at you from all sides, so it can help to just sort of rush them at one side and then deal with the ones who are coming from the other side. Some of these guys though, they are on opposing teams, so they will fight amongst themselves as well. So you can just try and take cover. There's no avoiding some shooting though. And since I've dealt with the guys from the left and the right spawns, I can then sort of hole up behind this cover, and then just deal with the occasional one coming down the center. I'm just keeping an eye out though for that elevator arriving, because again, there's no sense me holding here and fighting till the end. I just need to get on the elevator and then select floor 1. So essentially what we've done is come in from the entrance, then we've gone all the way down to the bottom, and now we're taking a different elevator up back to the top, but that's going to get us to a different route. So when this gets to the top, we have the option if we head right to exit the facility, and that's the way you'd go out after a lot of missions. We want to take the left turn, then we want to drop down through these holes in the floor. That'll then turn back on itself, and then you can drop down some more. Follow the pathway round, look for this little gap in the wall to crouch through, and then drop down once more. This will take us to an elevator, which you'll see is labelled as Site B. So when that gets here, just select Site B from the panel, and that will take you on down to the next part of the facility. Keep in mind that you might want to just clear up your HUD, so you can always just, if you've taken that mission to get to the facility, you can always just go into your contract manager and then just select untrack, because otherwise you can have that yellow marker telling you to go back to the research wing. So now we're at Site B, we want to push on through. Head through this door. You'll generally get 2 guys spawn in this room here. That's one of them dead. Let's just take a look for the second one. I think I saw him in the background there. There he is. Let's take him out. So that's generally all that spawn in this room. Now the main elevator that we're going to take down is here. If it isn't, then you can just call it using that panel. And these gun boxes are always worth a look through. So they sometimes spawn things like LMGs, so if you don't have one on you, it can be a good place to get things like the F55 or scopes if you don't have them for the guns that you've picked up so far. And here we've got one of the yellow keycards. So this is what we really want to grab as many as we can of. They'll spawn in blue boxes. And they are very useful since they will let us take the express route and get to the worm a lot quicker next time. Before we go on to the worm fight, I am also just going to show you that express route, so don't worry, I'm going to come back to that. But just always, whenever you see any of those cards, just make sure you put them in your backpack. Interestingly, with these ASD facilities, it is worth saying, if for any reason you get incapped by the enemy, and if you don't have squad mates with you who can get you up, just whatever you do, don't hold backspace. Holding backspace will send you back to wherever you've set your spawn, so in my case it's Seraphim. However, if you just wait for the 30 seconds or so that it takes to get rescued, you'll respawn back at the medical facility we saw up in the lobby. And you will respawn with all of the contents of your backpack intact. So that's always good. Apologies, I got stuck on that elevator a little bit there. Didn't think to look down at my feet. After we've come all the way down the elevator, I was taking out some of those guys on my way down while I was busy telling you about medical facilities. We're into this large room, and there's always a bunch of boxes around, so definitely worth checking. You want to maybe pick up some additional medical supplies if you didn't bring enough. Always be worth looking in those red boxes. And just I will show you off to the side, keep an eye out for these orange boxes as well. Orange mean good armor. And in these ones you'll definitely find pieces of the Corporal armor set. In the orange boxes up in the rest of the ASD facility that we just sort of passed through, you'll find Geist armor. There is a very, very small percentage chance that that will be the ASD edition that everybody wants. Now that we come to this bit, we've got another elevator that will move across the entire rail. However, that will trigger another sort of wave of enemies. So instead, we can just climb up here. We're going to make an incredible hash of it, I'm pretty sure, in this run. It just didn't seem to want to clip. Sometimes you just have to step away a bit from things like that to vault over them. Give it another go, and then I've vaulted over. And then if you've got squad mates following behind you, you can just open that door for them. And then they can get onto this sort of side rail. We can use this instead, and it just won't trigger as much of a wave of bad guys. We also don't need to go the full distance across. That's where you would go for the Project Hyperion mission. So once we get to this set of crates, it can make sense to just snipe out, as long as you've got a weapon with a bit of range to it, some of these guys the other side. Some of them are in heavy armor, so they're going to take a fair amount of hits. However, they tend to be carrying the Zenith energy sniper rifle, and if you take too many hits from that, it can really paste you. We just need to take out a couple of guys on that side to make our lives easier. We don't need to worry too much about the other side. Just vault over those boxes. And definitely watch out for the guys. There'll generally be a couple who spawn directly ahead of you down there. Just keep an eye out for those. If necessary, you might want to take them out too. He's being a little bit tricky hiding behind cover, so you can always push up on them a bit. Just to keep your time down, like I say, if you're aiming for a bit of efficiency, you want to just limit the guys you have to fight to the guys you have to fight. You don't need to pick a fight with everybody in the facility. However, it is worth bearing in mind that sort of taking the time to just snipe some of the people like this, who might otherwise do you damage, might be time well spent, because the last thing you want going into the worm fight is injuries. Injuries can make you aim worse, make you move slower, and we definitely don't want to pick up any of those. So then we just want to jump down in the gap in the railings and start making our way down through this cave. Now do just be a bit careful with where you're standing. If you head down into that pit, then that is an express trip back to the top of the facility, shall we say, as that one will definitely kill you. So just stick to the right-hand side and follow the path downwards. And once we're through this bit, random caverns of death are no longer an issue, and we can just follow out this path. Now, in true boss arena fashion, in the run-up to it, there are a load of loot crates and stuff to check. Lots of medical boxes. So definitely check those every time you come down here, because there is that chance of you getting the additional yellow cards. And just using runs like this to build up your stack so that you can quickly run through it with your mates at other times. I'd definitely be just checking all of these. Carry on following down into the cave. Even more loot boxes. But as long as you can just get one card out, but we're going to get 2 out this time, there's a pretty good chance that you'll be able to get more even if you do use the express route. Then if we head over this final bridge, this airlock in front of us is basically the point where the boss music's going to start playing, and that's our entrance to the boss arena. So now we're just going to go back and take a look at the express route. So the express route, or the bypass, will just involve us going round to the other side to the counter in the lobby of the ASD facility, and then we can find this gap in the elevator, and we can drop down into the air vents. Sometimes when you come along, this fan is going to be spinning, so you can just turn it off with that little button to the top left. Then that will let you, John McClane style, follow the air vents round. Beyond that, it's pretty much just a one direction thing. So just find the points at which you can drop down in the air vents to the next level, and then follow the pathway. Quite linear. You'll drop out into this sort of supply closet, and then you'll just need to crawl, go prone, get underneath that little gap. At this point you'll come to this locked door, wait for your team to catch up with you. I believe it's Flint who was carrying the card for us this time. You just want to pop that key card, one that you found, into that door, and it'll open. And this takes you straight through to the elevator down to the Site B. Not only does it take you to Site B, it takes you straight into the room next to the boss arena. So absolutely no shooting since we've come out of an armistice zone, and there are literally no bad guys in our way here. Here you'll find a cool little room which even overlooks the boss arena, so you can get a little preview of it. And then if you head to the other side, you'll have another elevator. This takes us down from the main bridge. And just takes us, once we get our squad assembled, on down to that excavation site. Good time to just check that your mags are up to spec. You shouldn't have been shooting anyone though. Now when we get here, it still is worth going back for a look at those first blue boxes. The ones that are closest, because we've got all this sort of pool of loot. So I'm just going to run past these ones. I'll just climb up these few steps in the cave, just mantle up these. Because there is a fairly decent chance, since they seem to have a somewhat higher percentage drop rate in these boxes I've found, that you might find a key card. And there we go. You'll notice that they say placeholder on them. They should probably have had a name. Maybe they haven't decided on what they should be called yet. Those are the ones that you want. So even though we've used one of our cards to get here, we've still managed to walk out with one. So we've kept our supply up. And sometimes you get super lucky and there's 2 or even 3. So you can definitely build up a fair supply of these. With those checked, it's time to head on into the airlock and get ready to fight the boss. Once everyone's gathered inside, you can just hit F to interact with the airlock. And then that will cycle this and open up the door to the arena itself. I'm going to be using my F55. Definitely worth having a laser pointer on this thing, it is quite hard to aim. And one strategy you can employ, particularly if you've got a 3-person squad, is you can keep someone up here on this bit. As long as you've got somebody down in the boss arena itself, then the worms won't despawn. So if you want to play it ultra safe, you can go with somebody up there on that, and they can tractor beam anyone who gets incapped back upstairs. You won't get hit by the worm there. But when you're ready, you just want to pull the lever, and that will activate the boss fight. So after a little bit, we're going to get worm number 1 pop up. Now it's worth knowing that off to the side you get this cabinet open, which contains batteries. These plasma batteries can be quite useful, so they can provide a bit of a stun attack. Got to attach my tractor beam. That's a tiny little bit of an error on my part. I'm just going to drag these out at the ready, and we're going to try and use them a bit later on. Essentially, if you hold those in front of the worm when it does its lightning attack, it can stun it when it explodes them. But for the time being, just feel free to lay into it with your LMG. You'll notice it has these little electric scars on it. These are weak points, and if you can hit those, then you're going to just do extra damage. Once you've done a bit of damage to the worm number 1, worm number 2 is going to spawn in one of the other pools. They'll move between these pools. Whatever you do, just make sure you don't go in the pools. Tend to sink like a stone, and then it's instant death. Just keep moving. Use the rocky outcrops as cover against the lightning attacks. And try to watch out the corners of your eyes for what the other worm is doing. Sometimes like this, we'll get them both in the one. Just make sure that you're calling out with your teammates which worm you're focusing. And do just try and dodge those attacks if you can. It's not going to happen all the time. But there we've got one of the stuns. I think Ravnak managed to get one of the plasma batteries in front of it. I'll show it better a bit later in the video. But when you get that stun, the worm is going to sort of stand up and show off a bunch more of its weak points. So those lightning attacks tend to be aimed at one person in the team. So if you notice that the worm is staring in your direction, it can be a really good idea to get behind cover. And if you notice that the worm's staring at your teammates, then it could be a good idea to lay into it. Worms will also do this fully circular attack, and you can dodge that by just going prone, but it can also be a really good time to get battery in front of it. Do notice though that those rocks are taking damage almost like when you charge them in a mining ship. So after a certain amount of damage, they will disappear and dissolve on you. Got another stun in. Another type of attack that the worms do is a little lunge. You saw that? They tend to do a little head shake before they do it, so that is a really good time to get out of the way. Of all the attacks though, that's probably the easiest one to dodge. The quick lightning breath is probably amongst the hardest, I would say. As you can see by me taking quite so many. Still, this is why we bring med guns and why we wear heavy armor. If you can't see the weak points, then another good point to go for is the eyes. The eyes seem to register additional damage. Definitely try to avoid taking sustained electrical attack. If you start getting focused, just really try and put yourself behind some cover and just keep moving between the cover, particularly if you see it taking DPS and, like that one, nearly crumbling. When there's no more cover, just keep moving. And of course keep firing. Now you are going to hit a point because these do take a fair few bullets. This is why we brought all the bullets with us. That you're going to start running a bit low on ammunition, you're going to start using the stuff in your backpack. So don't be afraid to take a moment. I think it is faster even if it is a bit more risky. It could be good to take a bit of cover behind one of the bits. Hope that your teammates are taking a bit of the pressure off you. go into your inventory and restack your magazines that way. You could, of course, always take a pooling option, but while pooling lets you keep moving, it does take a little bit longer. Conveniently, Rav is dropping me one of these batteries. Let's give it a go, see if we can get a stun on the worm. Unfortunately, Flint's taken a little bit of a down. Now, you do want to try and get to your teammates ASAP, because if they take that 30 seconds, then they'll end up getting sucked back up to the medical facilities at the Onyx facility. So they'll be effectively out of this fight. So there I got that battery in front of the worm, and now we're able to really get a good view of what it looks like stunned. Shows a bunch more weak points, which you can lay into. One downside here with this F-55 is it is a bit of a nightmare to aim down sights with, so you are somewhat reliant on the laser pointer with this thing. However, it's got more than enough bullets to make up for it. If you can take a quick break to just quickly double click some more magazines into your quick access, that'll make you faster. But there we have it. We've got the red hit marker, and that's worm number 2 down. And now it's time to go a-looting. I've got to say, this is not my favourite part of this. I might rant a little bit on this at the end. But from each of the worms, we're going to take 2 eyes and 1 tongue. And you can just walk up to these things, you'll look for a little prompt, and you can yank those things out. And same thing, you got the F prompt on the tongue. And you'll just pull it out of its face. Sometimes the right eye in particular can be a bit of a pain to get. You did just see that little prompt. It can be a bit hard to find, and sometimes it doesn't work fully. If you find that you're struggling with this at all, it can help to go prone, and that might give you a better view of it. You can also just bring out your tractor beam, and that will let you just yank the eye out, and then you can store that away. I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of Star Citizen's current hunting mechanics. It basically strikes me as all the worst types of hunting. Yeah, we're killing these animals, but then from them we're literally just taking a few prize bits. Super valuable bits. I don't know. That just, for some reason, sticks a bit wrong with me, and I sort of hope that in the future, with more crafting and stuff coming in, that we see a bit more sort of utilization of other things like hide and bones, etc. Then when you're done looting, you can just head out via this elevator, which should have opened. We have seen a couple of times, sometimes this door bugs. The best bet at that point is just to wait until you're out of combat and then escape and exit to menus. That should just put you back in. You usually respawn within the Onyx facility at the medical bay there. But you do want to clear out of this boss arena pretty quickly. I think it's about 4 minutes before it will reset, and that is kind of a violent reset which kills everything which is still in the room. So you are discouraged from doing that. So just do make sure you leave promptly. The elevator will just put you out on a balcony, which you can then just jump over, and you'll be back here at the lobby. Conveniently, you can just head straight to the med bay clinic and treat any wounds that you picked up. Got a bit of a spicy arm injury myself from all of those lightning blasts that I didn't dodge. So there we have it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed it, found it useful, and are off to hunt some Yormandi. I've been really enjoying the Onyx facility missions, and as long as you're not going at it with a small army, I think it's a really good balance of difficulty. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the Apex Valakar fight from Stormbreaker over in Pyro, but the Yormandi seems to be working better in terms of doing their distinctive attacks and actually hitting you from time to time, whereas the Apex Worm seems to be more of just a bullet sponge. Let me know how you get on down in the comments, and if you feel I've earned it, I would of course really appreciate if you hit subscribe and like the video. With all that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.